on this episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists.
When I started traveling, I decided I committed this to myself that I would see places I went, whether that meant leaving a day early, coming back a day late, but I would see places, not just be like, ooh, there it is, I'm passing by. No, I would experience them. The international conference is phenomenal. If you've never been there, it's almost like when your cell phone battery is dead and you go to a convention and then you're just like automatically at 100%. Like it's like physically plugging into your career. And like I said that in my lecture yesterday here at Under One Roof, and next week I'll be at ADHA and I'll do the same thing, because it's like I never know when I'm gonna get the next opportunity to recharge my battery. And like even if it's not completely dead and I get an opportunity to go to a conference, I go, because it's like, what if I lose power? Like, I don't have a power bank. Like, I need to see my people and feel good about my profession again.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists podcast, episode number 451. I'm your host, Andrew Johnston, and thank you so much for being here with us. We have a really great episode. Dr. Emily Boge's on today. She's incredibly unique as a hygienist in that she is a robust traveler. And not only that, when she does travel for, let's say, a dental conference or a dental hygiene conference or whatever, she really does it up. And so in this episode, we talk about a recent trip she did to Seoul, South Korea for the International Federation of Dental Hygiene Symposium. And now I know you're thinking like, okay, well, kind of what does this have to do with dentistry other than the fact that she went to a dental hygiene conference? Well, I guess not really a lot. Well, I guess one thing is I did want to let you know that there are international conferences that you can all attend out there. If you really wanted to find an opportunity to travel and mix, traveling with dentistry, there's a way to do that. So that's one of the reasons. If we really want to stretch, I know in one of the states that I have a license in, it's a mandatory course that we take on cultural competency. And while this episode's not going to be for CE, in my opinion, Boge does a really good job of showing how to love and kind of own your own culture, but also be able to embrace others and really delve into the things that make everyone unique and celebrate those. And so, man, I kind of wish this was a CE course for cultural competency, but it's obviously it's not. She just knows how to have a good time and just love life and love the people that they're visiting. And so that's really what I wanted to highlight in this episode. Now, next week is an episode I'm also excited about because it's been on my list for a really long time. I want to say, I might have mentioned this in the interview, but I would say this is almost a decade long in the making. I've been trying to find someone who was really qualified to talk about ozone, because I feel like every now and again you hear that people are using ozone in their practices or that they believe in it, and I just didn't really know a whole lot about it. I mean, the ozone layer out in the sky, that's kind of what I know ozone to be. And so I guess I've been just searching high and low for this person kind of casually. Now insert Barbara Tritz. Barbara Tritz is a friend of the show. She's been on the show a couple of times before. And in the episode that we're going to do next week, we review pretty much everything you're going to need to know about ozone, what it is, how it's used, expectations on patient care and outcomes, and I mean, just so much more. So make sure you hit that subscribe button in your podcast app, or if you are an Apple Podcast user, make sure you hit the follow button so that the episode will download automatically for you so you don't miss it. It's been a little bit of time since I've mentioned it, but it's about time to start talking about it again. Joining me for a dental mission trip in March 2025 in the Philippines. The website is now updated, so philippinesdentaltrip.com. There's an FAQ section that's very thorough, so make sure you check that out. And we already have some people signed up. We can take up to 20, so I'm really hoping that this one sells out. Last year, I think we had, I want to say 13 on the boat. And this one, this is going to be round 2. We already have all of our systems in place. We have our partners in place. It's just going to be a really good time. I'm also checking out a second location so that hopefully we can add a second trip in 2026. So we'll have one spring and then one fall. That's kind of the goal eventually. This is a great opportunity for maybe some excitement, some adventure, and a great way to beat burnout. That was one of the things that kind of saved my career. I think I've talked about that several times, but early on in my career when I'm just like, man, this is all my life is right here, just, scraping teeth all day. I got really burnt out really quick. And then I started doing dental mission trips and I realized how much more we have. And so anyways, whether it's with me or someone else, I think dental mission trips are amazing. We've also added CE to each of the trips. It's not a whole lot of CE, but because it's a unique opportunity for CE in many states and jurisdictions, it can be qualified for a tax write-off. And you'll need obviously a CPA or accountant to help you with that. But we try to make it as convenient as possible to be able to do that. So anyway, PhilippinesDentalTrip.com, or you can email me, Andrew@ataleoftwohygienists.com. Anyway, that's it. Thanks again to Erica Flateau for guest co-hosting this episode. It was recorded at RDH Under One Roof again, and it was great. So I hope you enjoy this episode with Dr. Emily Boge.
A tale of two hygienists.
Well, listeners, welcome into the episode. We're joined today by Emily Boge. Emily, welcome to the show.
Oh, hi. Hi, Andrew.
I figured we could talk about your recent trip to Korea. That's all I want to talk about on the show right now.
Real?
I'm not even kidding you. I'm so jealous.
Oh, my God.
So, Boge, first of all, before we get to the Korea part, or I'm not even going to introduce who you are. Everyone knows who you are. So, here's the thing. You vacation better than anyone else that I know. And I know this was work and not just vacation, but like, what is your organizational structure? How many spreadsheets do you have to figure out these?
Well, okay, I'm going to tell you a little secret here. And I literally, listeners, I just walked into this mess. I had no idea what we're going to talk about.
You're welcome.
You told me you want to talk about Korea, but I didn't know you want to talk about Korea on a podcast. Okay, cool. So what I do for every meeting is this color-coded spreadsheet. And
I was kidding about a spreadsheet. I didn't know you actually had one.
Every meeting, I have one.
You're so dumb.
No, I'm not. No, this is why.
Gosh.
No, this is why. Let me explain this before I show this to you.
Okay.
You have to know going into a meeting what your non-negotiables are.
Okay.
The things you have to be at to build your brand, to support your inner circle of friends. Again, you can't support everybody because you can't be in 3 meetings at once.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
So you have to pick and choose. So this is my non-negotiable.
Okay.
Meaning Emily Boge has to be physically present everywhere there's something on this calendar.
I see.
Then
I see. I'm on the calendar.
my open time, you're on the calendar.
No, I do. I see it. Yeah, I'm grateful for that.
With Andrew, and this got added the last thing. See all these other meetings in Penn? These got added to places I committed myself to once I got here.
Thank you.
But here's the thing. This is really important. I feel deeply in my heart this is important.
Yeah.
Because you get to these meetings, and especially if you're somebody like me with like bad adult ADHD, I see like, ooh, flowers, ooh, free drinks, ooh, this.
Stickers, tons of stickers.
Oh, come eat dinner with us. We're going to go to this place you've always wanted to go. But then you look at the calendar and you're like, well, you already promised somebody you'd eat dinner with them and you can't overcommit.
Yeah.
Right. And so I learned like probably the second or third year that I really started traveling and lecturing that I need to have my non-negotiables on a paper that I fold up and keep close to me. And I always keep a second copy of it in case it gets lost. Great tip. And then as far as vacationing, when I grew up, I never left the state of Iowa really until I was in high school.
Yeah.
And that was like, I lived 20 minutes from the Iowa, Wisconsin, and Illinois border. And it was like to go to Wisconsin. Like, I never went anywhere. We never did anything. I'm one of 11 kids. My parents didn't have a lot of money, and we didn't really have a car that fit all of us anyway.
Yeah.
And so when I started traveling, I decided I committed this to myself that I would see places I went, whether that meant leaving a day early, coming back a day late. Obviously, it's on my own dollar when I do that.
Right.
But I would see places, not just be like, ooh, there it is.
Not
I'm passing
go
by.
to them, but you
No,
see them.
I would experience them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so even when like my husband and I went on our honeymoon, we always take a day for learning. And we went to like when we went to Jamaica on our honeymoon, we took a day where we went into a school, a church, and a sugar cane plantation. and just learned. And
Yeah.
so, especially if I go somewhere and I think there's a really good chance I might not ever get back there. Because I'm 43 and a half years old. And, you know, you say average lifespan for a woman around, what is it, 78 or 80 years? I don't even know what the research is right now. So my life is half over.
So you're more dead than alive?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't look at it like that. But what I say is, you know, like going to Korea.
Yeah.
I looked at that and I said, well, when in the heck am I ever going to get back to Korea? Well, then somebody had asked me to come and do something a little early, and that fell through, and that opened up some extra time. So I reached out to some other friends that were going there, and I am like, what's going on? You guys got anything planned? Oh, yeah, we're going to go here and here, or we're going to go there and there. And I'm like, okay. So then you just kind of start talking to people, and I go online and watch YouTube videos, like coolest things to see in South Korea.
Yeah.
What can you not miss? I talked to my friend Wendy Stewart, and of the 8 things I wanted to see, she had 7 of them on her list already of a trip she was already taking. And so we just did my 8th one when we got there.
Nice.
But Korea was exceptional. And I don't know, gosh, there were a lot of people in my lecture yesterday, but I don't know who was all there. One thing I said in my lecture yesterday was the level of respect that Korean dental hygienists have for American dental hygienists is, I can't even explain it. Like we're the OGs of dental hygiene. Like it started here. And so when you talk to folks like the Korean dental hygienists who have only really been around since 1965, that's not that many years.
Yeah.
That's only like 15 years older than I am. And I think about that, like the level of respect they have for us. Like, for instance, the dental hygiene oath they had on a giant billboard. It was like probably twice the size of your backdrop right here.
Yeah.
And they had it in Korean, and then they had the American oath underneath. And it was part of this giant exhibit that talked about the history of dental hygiene in Korea.
Yeah.
But for them to have our oath, right, in their language,
Yeah.
it was very powerful. And we went to dinner one night, and Lancet Van Gilder and I were together that night, and we didn't have anywhere to sit at this big fancy dinner, and there was 2 seats open at this table. And so we came up, and nobody at the table spoke English. But the second we're from the USA, like held up our badges, and like, oh, USA hygienist. And they all get out their phones and put on their Google Translate apps.
Oh, wow.
And they all start talking to Lancet and I through their Translate.
Wow.
Like, to be that, like,
You're
it's
like a
one thing to
celeb.
be like, share it, sit at our table. And then, like,
And then ignore you.
you
or
know how
whatever,
people
stay
sometimes do, like, we're
polite.
just going to talk amongst yourselves and pretend that these 2 foreigners aren't here.
Right.
You know, I've had
Right.
that happen to me in other countries.
Yeah.
But they were like, no, we want to talk to you. We want to know, like, all the things.
Yeah. I want to come back to the conference itself. However, I still want to, I'm on your travel thing still. I want to do almost a day by day. Like, what were you guys looking at? Like, what was the cool things that you did see?
Oh, my goodness. So what I do, the other thing I do, and this is like a travel hack that I've showed a lot of people, is I have a Android phone, so I have Google Maps.
Good for you. Yes.
And I
This
know
is Android.
a lot of other people have an Apple, but you can still download Google Maps. So if you go on my Google Maps, like if anything ever happens to me, like if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, and people are like, where in the world has Emily Boge ever been? I put a
love it.
heart and a star in the places. I put a star, and if I really like something, I put a heart so I can click on it and go back to it. So like when I toured Scotland a couple years ago, and a lot of people are like, oh, where did you go? What did you see? And I can click and give them a play-by-play on a per-day basis of what we did, the order we did it in, how many miles are between those places, how long it's going to take you to travel by train. I mean, it's all tracked. And I take so many photos that are also linked to those places. So when I was in Korea, I flew into Seoul, and actually it's the Incheon airport. And then I spent a night there, and then we left on our tour that next morning very early. And Wendy's from Canada, so she flew from Toronto to Seoul, and I flew from, Chicago, because I drove to Chicago, because
Really?
otherwise it would have Cedar Rapids. You can't get out of Iowa unless you go through Chicago or Denver or Atlanta. And so I ended up driving to Chicago the 3.5 hours, and then I flew Chicago to San Francisco, which was 4.5 hours. And then I flew from San Francisco to Incheon, which was 13.
Yeah.
And then I landed here. And then these are all the places I went to in Seoul while I was there. But what we did was we got in a bus, and then every night, like this is, we went to Cheongcheon-do, and then we went to Gongsansi and Gil. Like we went to all these places, and at every place, this tour company had an experience.
Okay.
So I paid one flat rate for 5 days, and it was, the math ended up being about, let me do the math. What's 1,200 divided by 5?
Can't do it in my head, but I got a calculator right here.
Yeah, it's like it was like $200 and some dollars.
$240?
$240 a day. I spent more than that on Uber rides in some cities.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that included 3 meals a day, your hotel stay for that night. It included a guided tour. I mean, all the things. The other thing I do when I travel is before I leave, I figure out how I'm going to have phone service and internet wherever I'm going. Because I have to have that to connect with my family, right? And to connect with my business life. And so in South Korea, you go and you get a card, and that card allows you to travel by train anywhere in the country, and you can reload it, the card. The other thing is I bought a SIM card online for $40. My phone company was going to charge me $100. I bought a SIM card online, unlimited internet, unlimited calling for $40.
Wow.
For 10 days. So smart.
Love it.
And so knowing that kind of stuff is going to save you financially, but it's also going to save you because I get like literally physically panicked when I lose connectivity with the world. And so having that connectivity as soon as your plane lands, I have to have that plan, because I was in a situation in Europe once where my connectivity was just completely gone. And it was in Germany, in an area where nobody spoke English. And it was a struggle. So I learned that the hard way. But having connectivity before you get there and knowing how you're going to maintain your connectivity once you're there. But yeah, we were all over. We went all the way down to Busan. And then our last day, I wish I could have spent 3 days in Busan, because that's such a beautiful city. It's the second biggest city in South Korea. For those people who don't know a lot about South Korea is 50 million people, but 23 million of them live in Seoul. Whoa. The second biggest city is Busan, which is just under 3 million people. And that's at the complete opposite end of the country. And Busan is like a beach city, and we didn't get to spend very much time there. So the tour, you could either buy the 5-day tour or the 8-day tour. Oh. Wendy and I had to get back for the meeting. So we only, at 5 days, we had to take the bullet train back to Seoul. But yeah, I wish I could have spent more time in Busan. I made a lot of friends with a lot of Korean hygienists and 2 companies that really want me to come back. But
great.
You never know what's going to happen. Next week, I could get hit by a bus.
Yeah.
So you never know.
Let me ask you, though, of all the experiences that you did, what was one of your favorite? Like cultural experience, I guess is what I'm looking for.
Cultural experience. I have a favorite cultural experience, and then I have a favorite professional experience.
Okay.
My favorite cultural experience, actually kind of 2. We went to a monastery, and Wendy and I had tea with a monk. Like literally the monk prepared us tea and sat down. And again, some people on this podcast may not know me, but I was raised really, really Catholic, and I have studied a fair amount of religions, always learning new things. Hygiene Edge girls taught me a crap ton about their religion, LDS. As I meet dental people, I learn more about religion. So at this journey, I happened to get on this tour that happened to have this tea planning. And I sat down with this Buddhist monk. And it was a female. First of all, I didn't know Buddhist monks could be female.
I didn't either. This is new.
Till I show up there, and this female was telling us about how she, at 40 years old, she decided she wanted to be a monk. And she was such an interesting person to begin with. But then she started to dig deeper into religion and how, from an ethical standpoint, all religions were very similar. And I lectured here at RDH Under One Roof on ethics. And so I kind of wove that into my presentation too, about really how all religions have a golden rule. It might be different. It might be in a different language. It might be acknowledging a different deity, but ultimately they all do. And so this experience that I thought was going to be just completely, purely a religious experience, get to know a little bit more, I was like, holy crap, this is my jam, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
Like, it got to be like, because ethics is my jam, infection control is my jam, radiology, like those are the things I lecture on. And sometimes you just encounter something where you're like, oh my gosh, this totally is linked to dentistry, and you would have never thought. So that was really cool. We also went to a small city, and we went to a palace, as Zhejiang, I think, was this city. And part of the experience was getting to wear the traditional costume of Koreans, which is called I'm probably not going to say this right, so if you're Korean, I apologize in advance. It's called Hanuk, I think they pronounced it. And they also did your hair. Oh. So I have so much hair. Like, it's heavy and it's very thick, and I just started growing it out. And so you sit down in the chair and they do your hair, and it takes like 5 seconds. So like an updo that I would have had to be in a wedding, like I bet a bridesmaid 100,000 times, that would take someone an hour. They literally had my hair and it didn't move. And I was just so impressed by that one, like, how did you do that? No, they did your hair, they gave you accessories, and then you got to walk around the palace grounds for like 4 hours in their traditional dress. And everybody else there was also in the traditional dress.
Yeah.
And so it was just really cool from a cultural standpoint to like, this is a really heavy dress, and like, it's really hot outside, and this dress doesn't breathe at all. And like, just to experience that was really, really neat. And again, I'm not a small person. I'm kind of a big human, especially for a woman. And so I get in there and the lady's dressing me, and she's like, "Oh, you big." And I was like, I know, I'm sorry. She's like, "No, that's so good." And like my whole life, like, being big has not been a good thing, but she's just like, "No, you're so tall, beautiful." And she's just like admiring me. And I'm in this dress shop where everything's sparkly and beautiful, and I'm admiring everything else. And that's just the way the Korean people are.
Yeah.
They're so appreciative. They're so gracious, like the sense of hospitality there. So walking around that village was really cool. I didn't have such a great experience. Like, I love Asian food, but Asian food 3 meals a day, after about 3 days, I was like, God, I want some pizza. I need a burger.
So Korean food, though, from what I've experienced, a little bit on the spicier side and lots of soups.
Yes, lots of soups.
Experienced?
The other thing is that you order your main dish, and as an Iowa farmer, as a farm kid, I like to have some protein, and I like to have meat, and I like to have potatoes.
Yeah.
Well, they serve you like a million sides, and the sides are all free, and they're all different. A lot of them are very spicy. I tried kimchi 5 times, and I just quickly figured out, quickly 5 times, but quickly figured out I'm a sauerkraut girl. I could not find a kimchi that was my jam. I did find some things that were my jam, though, like that I never would have thought of. Like, they have a Buffalo Wild Wings, and it's called Nekid, Nekkid, is like the sole chain of Buffalo Wild Wings. But all the sauces are Asian.
Nice.
And so one night we went out and had the big thing to eat in Korea is chicken and beer.
Yeah.
Which are 2 things that I really like.
Yes.
But I started seeing all these, and it's like on the signs, they say it in Korean, and then they say chicken and beer. And there's like a million of them. And I was like, this is really cool. But when you go to like a more traditional, the meat is a very small portion. And it's very heavily, vegetables and soups, like you said. But it's also things like root vegetables that are pickled. And I tried everything. Yeah. And that was the neat thing about doing that tour that was organized, is every restaurant we went into was authentic.
Yes.
But also the first restaurant I saw when I got off the train was KFC. Well, there's your meat and potatoes. I know, right?
I mean, but KFC, though, isn't even a little bit different, right? I mean, even like your McDonald's and your things like that are,
I will say KFC
similar.
was very consistent, because on my way home, I had some wings at KFC. And no, the Colonel's recipe is strong.
Is the same.
Strong. Yeah.
Still representing everything Korea.
I've had KFC in Germany. That's my go-to when I'm in another country, because they don't mess with the Colonel's recipe.
That's so funny. I want to talk about your marketplace experience. Tell me about, because in a lot of Asian cultures, going to the market's a big deal.
Oh, yeah,
right?
Totally. So I had marketplace experience in 5 different cities. And then when I was in Seoul, I went to 3 different markets just in Seoul.
Yeah.
I love marketplaces. I go to New York. I go to the Chelsea market. I go to Wisconsin to Madison. I do the Saturday morning farmers market. That's one of my jams.
Yeah.
I was walking through the largest market in Seoul. And who do I run? Literally face planted into Claire Zhang.
Of course.
Whose parents live in Seoul. And she had come in early too for the convention.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because I had a very similar experience with Michael McCarthy in New York City once, where I was there, he lives there, but I was just bopping around being a tourist, and I literally ran smack into his chest. And the same thing, only Claire ran into my chest because she's a lot shorter than me.
Yeah.
But it was super funny. But I love a good market. And so I will also investigate before I go somewhere if they have a market and what the times are and whatever. In Seoul, the markets are open till 4 a.m. They're open 10 a.m. to 4 a.m.
It's crazy.
And they sell everything from literally soup to nuts. You'll go to just a nut stand, or just there was one stand where the guy was just selling puzzles made of wood, or
Very
just
cool.
frying pans.
Sure.
Because
if you need a frying pan, you know where to go.
Well, if you're in a city of 23 million people,
Right.
you can still make quite a racket just selling frying pans.
Exactly.
Because if 23 million people need
Yep.
frying pans,
There's demand.
as they wear out, right? And so,
Well, I'm trying to visualize this. Is it really chaotic? I'm picturing
It's
just
madness.
mayhem. Okay.
well, the other thing that happened is right after I ran smack into Claire Zhang, there was a fire in the marketplace.
Whoa.
And so all these people have these movable stands.
Did she set it and was running from it, and that's why she ran into you?
No, actually, the reason she ran into me is because I was eating corn on the cob, because I'm from Iowa and I wanted to have Korean
Okay.
corn. And so I wasn't paying attention.
Oh, okay.
She ran into me. No, so all of a sudden there's this fire, and all of a sudden there's firemen, and I like firemen. I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah, you
"Ooh,
do.
Korean firemen. Heck yeah.
What are their uniforms like?
Same as ours.
Okay.
Same as ours. They're just slightly shorter as a whole, and Korean. And so they're like, fire, 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 and all the alarms going off, and all these people are scrambling to move these booths. So if you think of in America, food trucks that we have here, picture a food truck without an engine, and there's 400 of them in a small space, and now there's a fire and you have to move it, but they don't have an engine. And most of them are hooked up to a power source that happens to be a series of plugins that runs all the way down the street.
Yeah.
And so the fire truck is literally coming through the market as all these people are in a pandemonium moving, and the fire truck's not stopping. And all these people, these tourists, are standing there ooh, fire trucks out with their phones out. I'm like, you guys are going to get run over.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. But yeah, markets I love it. Then we went to the fish market in Busan, and there was a elderly lady. I don't know if you guys saw the picture on my Facebook, but she was hacking the heads off the fish and filleting them right in the middle of the street. And there's this little pool of blood running. And she had a line from here over to the Sensodyne booth.
Yeah, that's probably about 40 yards, everyone.
And people were waiting in line for her fish fillets.
Wow.
And she
Wow.
was just
Yeah.
whack, whack, whack. And I just watched her. I watched her for 10 minutes filleting these fish. She didn't have any teeth. If I had to guess, she was probably 80 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, dang, I wonder how long she's worked in this fish market. I had 100 million questions for her,
Yeah.
but I can't talk to her because she doesn't speak English and I don't speak Korean. But, and she probably didn't have an iPhone to translate. But it's just so interesting when you go to a market like that, because that's where you truly see the culture.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you see a lot of tourists, and those are the people who are kind of doping around, walking about, looking confused.
Yeah.
I like to pay attention to the people who are they got a bag of beans, and they got a bag of rice, and they got, they came to the market on a mission.
Yeah.
And then I kind of try to watch them because I love to watch people.
Yeah.
But that was really good people watching at the market.
I bet.
You don't learn all of this on a sandals resort.
No, you don't.
No,
and the
you
other interesting
don't.
thing is I would walk into a lot of the clothing stores, and they would say, "Oh, you're very tall, very big. We don't have anything for you." And I would be like, "No, I'm just looking. It's cool." They're clearly looking to help people, but they have their models of efficiency. We
Sure.
don't have anything, move on. And they're very direct about it. Where in
Yeah.
America, you would never say that.
No.
Could you imagine walking into a clothing store where they would only carry very small sizes and having someone say that to you? No, there'd be a
Yeah,
lawsuit.
you too, but yeah, exactly.
Somebody
there would be.
sue the pants off of wherever you were for not being size inclusive.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I love that. I love that about them.
Well, and I'm trying to picture these dresses you were wearing. Like, are they really vibrant? I mean, what did they look like?
They're very vibrant. They're made of like a non-breathable, satiny, silky material, but the sleeves on them are very mesh-like. And the dress itself is almost like a very long apron. It like wraps around you a bunch, and then it has like straps like a pair of bib overalls would have. And then the jacket shirt thing they put over it is what has to like fit you. And they had like a million different sizes
so the
and
mesh
a million
is
different
so it
colors.
breathes
Right.
under the jacket.
Oh,
Do you stand there and they like roll you up in this thing?
Yeah.
Oh.
And it was really funny
Boge
because the lady
burrito.
who was trying to roll up my 5'13" frame was like barely 5 feet tall. And so I'm like, can I like I was like, do I want to go on my knees here? And they're supposed to like hit the ground, and mine was a good foot off the ground, but it was super fun.
Funny.
Super fun.
We got to transition. We got to talk about the conference real quick within the last couple of minutes that we have. What was your experience with the conference?
The international conference is phenomenal. If you've never been there, they're now doing it every 2 years instead of every 3 years. IFDH, if you're an ADHA member, you're automatically an IFDH member. It's so powerful. At the very beginning, they have an opening ceremonies. It's kind of like the Olympics, where each country picks a delegate, and the delegate brings their flag on stage and waves it around. It was so cool because Tammy Filipiak did it, and she's a fellow Midwesterner friend of mine. And just seeing her like up on the stage waving the flag around is phenomenal. There's 34 member countries to the International Federation, so they do the parade of countries first, and then they parade the international flag. And the president of the federation, along with a representative of the host country, carries the international flag together.
Nice.
Then they have all of the conferences for the whole week. They have an exhibit floor, just like here at RDH. And then at the end, they have a closing ceremonies where they put all the flags away. And they also have a launch to invite you to the next conference. So the next host country comes up, and it was this cutest woman from Italy. And she starts talking about, the food and the wine and the fashion. And, it only takes an hour by train to get from Venice to Florence to Rome. And she's like, basically, they're like putting in this big plug for their country so everybody comes back, right?
Yeah.
But they have such pride in explaining that. And it's just so cool. So like automatically, once you go to the international meeting, you're like, I have to go the next time.
Yeah.
So I went the first time in Basel in 2016, and that's where Boge 513 launched, was in Basel in 2016. Then I went again. I missed the one in 2019. It was in Australia because we had a faculty shortage that summer, and I couldn't get away. And then in 2022, it was in Ireland, and I presented my doctoral research there. And then this time in Seoul. And I was nominated for a couple international awards, and so I booked my trip, and then I didn't win either of them, but I went anyway because I couldn't miss that level of excitement.
Yeah.
And it's almost like when your cell phone battery is dead and you go to a convention and then you're just like automatically at 100%. Like it's like physically plugging into your career.
Yeah.
And like I said that in my lecture yesterday here at Under One Roof, and next week I'll be at ADHA and I'll do the same thing because it's like I never know when I'm going to get the next opportunity to recharge my battery.
Yeah.
And like even if it's not completely dead and I get an opportunity to go to a conference, I go because it's like, what if I lose power? Like I don't have a power bank. Like I need to see my people and feel good about my profession again. Well said.
You are a great ambassador for this. Yeah, I know you're not even like getting paid to say this, but you are really, well, maybe you look at me like, are you getting paid to say this?
No, I'm like, am I supposed to be getting paid to say this?
No, it's just, no, I mean, look, you've gone on for like, last 25 minutes about like, just with such energy and passion about like going and experiencing new cultures, new things. And I feel the same way. I love international travel. I do love international hygiene. I only did the Australia one. It was the only one I've been able to go to. But it just recharges you. It's like, oh my gosh, we are fighting the fight on a global level, and it's just wonderful.
I think you have to get to a place in your mind where it becomes okay to be like that. And the reason I say that is because I grew up in a very homogenous part of the United States. Like everybody was white. There was like 2 black people in my town.
Yeah.
And everybody was Catholic even. There were some Irish Catholics and the rest of us were German Catholics. very small percentage of Irish. Like, you joke, but like our town is, I don't know if it still is, but it's the biggest city in America that doesn't have a public high school. We only have a Catholic high school. Like, they have to go 15 minutes away to go to public high school.
Oh, wow.
Wow. And so recognizing that for probably the first 10 years of my career, I was stuck in that minutia.
Yeah.
Like, I only saw white patients. I had a couple patients from Mexico, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And then when I got into the school setting and I figured out I am so culturally incompetent, it's painful. And I had to seek out places. So I sought out the National Dental Hygienists Association, NDHA, and I made new friends and they helped educate me. I sought out people like Ryan Rutar that gave me a lot of education on LGBTQ because I didn't know anybody was gay either.
Oh.
And I just didn't know what I didn't know. Well, then once I started understanding that it was okay in my brain to be different from me and still be my friend, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because all my friends my whole life had only been like me. And it almost became like, well, what can I learn next?
Yeah.
And then once you start to travel and you get to see that, it's like, but what else don't I know?
Yeah.
Because like when I was in Korea, I'm like, how did they not know this? Like, these are 50 million people that I had no idea did things this way. How did I not know this?
Well, look, we have to wrap up. Boge, thank you for being on. If anyone wanted to contact you and ask you about like more about international travel or whatever, where they need to reach you.
Probably the easiest way is Instagram or Facebook, just Emily Boge. Or you can reach out to my email, ereiner@hotmail.com, or go on my website, thinkbigdental.com. I'm currently I'm without a full-time gig right now, so I can't give you like my college email anymore or anything like that because I am wandering about for a couple months till I figure out what's next.
I'm very excited to hear about that hopefully soon. All right. Thank you, listeners, for joining us, and have a good week.
Later.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.